All right, so we want to draw the sketch of this function by first analyzing it, right? By analyzing, we mean, let's get the degree, let's get the end behavior, let's find out where the roots, the zeros are, and then find the multiplicities. And once we have all of that information, okay, we should be able to draw the sketch, okay? So let's take a look, okay? Now we have the -2, and we have in parentheses x plus 1/2, and then in parentheses x minus 3 squared, okay? So how many, what is the degree of this polynomial? I guess we'll ask that question first. Well, to find the degree, we need to determine how many of these unique x factors there are, right? Now, this -2 is not a factor, okay? You want to be careful with that. So now you don't need to do this, but this x minus 3 squared tells us that there are 2 x minus 3 factors. Okay? So how many factors in total are there? Okay, there's 3. Remember, this -2 is not a factor. Okay, so because there's 3 of these, we know that the degree should be 3. Now, once again, just to summarize, we see 2 different factors with x in them, but because of this squared here, right, that adds a multiplicity. So the degree is going to be 3 total. And now how do we find the zeros? Remember, we set each factor equal to 0. So in this case, x plus 1/2 is equal to 0. X minus 3 is equal to 0. So here x equals -1/2. And here x is equal to 3. Now, once again, the multiplicity here, though, right, that's going to be equal to 2, right, because there are essentially 2 of these x minus 3 factors. Okay, so what is the end behavior of this guy going to look like? Okay. Well, let's take a look. We know the degree is 3, right? So this is an odd polynomial, which means we're going to have an S shape, right? Not a U shape, but it's also negative, right? The leading term is negative. So what is that going to do, right? Well, it's just going to flip our graph over. So what does that mean? It means that if we draw a graph like this, just a rough little sketch, right? It's going to be an S shape, but we're not going to go down to the left and up and to the right, right? Because it's negative, we're going to go up and to the left and down to the right. Okay. Now, where are our zeros, right? We have zeros at -1/2 and at 3. Okay, so -1/2 and 3. So what is our graph doing then? Remember, the multiplicities tells us if the graph will go through the x-axis or if it's going to touch it and bounce back, right? So the even multiplicities, right? If you have an even multiplicity, your graph is just going to touch it and just bounce back, okay? So keeping in mind this idea about turning points and keeping a nice smooth curve, right? Now this is just a rough sketch, okay? But we can use the end behavior, so we know that we're going to come around this way. We're going to approach this x-axis or the x-intercept, and we're going to go through it, right? We're going to go through it. Okay. There is our next x-intercept, so we have to turn, right? Pretty much right in between, so we'll turn back around. Okay. But remember, at x equals 3, what is the multiplicity? The multiplicity is 2, which is an even number. So what does that mean? It means that we should touch the x-axis here, but instead of going through, right, because the multiplicity is even, we're just going to bounce back. Well, take a look. We look at the end behavior, right? We know that the graph should end up down here. Okay. Notice that we do not touch the x-axis anywhere else. Okay, so all of these ideas have to tie in together. Okay.